And in terms of that material, it's interesting to consider Mars in Cancer. It is ancestry, but it's more specifically the mother. Mm-hmm. It's the maternal line. Mm-hmm. And we know that a woman has all the eggs that she will have when she's born. Hmm. So those are developing when she's a fetus. Mm-hmm. And so not only were you in your mother's womb, but you were actually in your grandmother's womb when the imprint of you existed in your mother.
Yes.
On the material level. Mm-hmm. So we know in order for there to be life, there's spirit and matter that has to come together.
Yep.
And so the matter, the mother, the feminine, is an imprint from your mother and your grandmother. And so in some ways there is a literal carrying of the material through the generations. Welcome to the Weekly Transit, a podcast exploring the intersection of Western astrology and Jungian psychology. Astrology is a language that communicates how the planets and stars influence life on Earth, while psychology helps us navigate both conscious and unconscious experiences. Together, these tools offer the potential for self-understanding, growth, and transformation. Join astrologer Scott Tajarian and me, psychotherapist Gabriella Durso, as we dive into the cosmic forecast each week.
Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of September 30th to October 6th. Hi, Gabriella.
Hi, Scott.
The theme this week is relationships as we highlight the new Moon Solar Eclipse in Libra. If you enjoy the content that Gabrielle and I are creating here and would like to support us, you can subscribe on YouTube, rate us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple. You can like us on YouTube, like this video, or if you'd like to support the podcast monetarily, you can do so via Spotify. And of course, if you're curious to learn about how any of the following transits are affecting you directly and how you can work with the energy to navigate your way successfully through these transits, you can contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com.
I also just wanted to thank our international listeners who reached out and are interested in supporting the podcast but aren't able to do that through Spotify. We're looking into some alternative platforms that work internationally.
Oh, amazing.
So we really appreciate your support.
Yes, amazing. Someone reached out internationally. It's like, I want to support you, but
I can't.
So very touched
very
by them reaching out.
Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
We really appreciate your support and encouragement from everyone who's reaching out and just sending the nice messages. We really appreciate when we hear from you and you're sending us your positive vibes. I have one announcement this week. This Saturday, October 5th, at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be hosting a live Zoom event with 5th generation psychic medium Delisa Hawking. If you're not familiar with Delisa, you can check her out on Instagram. I've done several YouTube videos with her in the past. She is amazing. Her Instagram handle is Delisa Hawking. That's DALLISAHOCKING, where she posts daily psychic hits and intuitive insights. It's going to be a very fun event, and we will be answering questions live. So I'm going to put the link to sign up for the Zoom, because if you want to join the Zoom live, you need to sign up. So that link is going to be in the show notes.
Sounds great. Sounds like an interesting event.
Yeah, I'm excited. I always have fun conversations with Delisa. She is really incredible. So much intuitive insight.
Where does she live? Is she in California?
She's in Washington State.
Washington, okay.
Yeah, the Northwest, Pacific Northwest. But yeah, so that's where she is.
Is this event free or is there?
It's free.
It's
free.
Okay.
It's free. Yeah, just sign up,
Amazing.
Show up. And I think we'll be posting it on YouTube after it's live. But if you want to interact with us live and ask us questions, then you need to be at the live event, which again is Saturday, October 5th, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern.
It's always nice to be live.
Yeah, I love the interactions.
Yeah, just the energetics of the information coming through, especially with her psychic abilities and with your intuition, just how that really who shows up can affect the content of the entire event.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it helps me as a projector because I'm just this projector, and who shows up is who's putting the film through the projector. What movie are we going to watch? It's up to you, you know?
Yeah.
So,
That's a great image.
Yes. What is the film that you want to watch? Because I'm the projector. Bring your film and I will show you your movie. Yes. And that's what I do in a reading. You know, it's like showing people who they are from my perspective, which is unique and is going to give them insights about themselves, or I should speak to you, the audience, would give you insight into who you are in a way that you maybe haven't seen within yourself. That's why I do what I do as a guide.
Powerful.
Yes, yes. So again, the theme this week is relationships, and we're highlighting the new moon solar eclipse in Libra. We have a couple other transits aside from that. Before we get into the new moon solar eclipse, I want to kind of set the stage. Like we've got Uranus in Taurus, Neptune in Pisces, Pluto in Capricorn. We've been talking about those three planets for the last several weeks, since early September when Pluto transited back into Capricorn and formed that sextile with Neptune and Pisces and the trine with Uranus and Taurus. What this transit is helping us do, quite simply, is helping us revolt against the patterns or the habits that we have set for ourselves that is creating stagnation in terms of our self-worth and values. It's like we're going through a revolution of our values. Aligning with Neptune and Pisces, that's helping us reimagine the dream that exists within our unconscious through becoming aware of the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame that exists within us so that we can show ourselves compassion and integrate those thought patterns and memories with understanding, forgiveness, and love for ourselves. When we do that, we're able to reimagine the dream from a nightmare to the fantasy that we desire. When we're in that place of understanding the big picture, that everything is happening in a way that it needs to happen for our highest good, now we can look at our values and elevate them. We can revolt against these old habits that we've set up for ourselves that has maybe been devaluing who we are. And once we do that, now we're able to transform our relationship to authority, our relationship to ourselves as the authority, and transform our goals and ambitions. Because when your values are higher, your goals are higher.
I think it's interesting and maybe important to reflect on where those values come from within your own system, and what is your authority? Like, what is driving those values? I think of this a lot with manifestation or with intention setting, that your values or your orientations can be coming from your ego, in which case they might not be aligned with what your soul wants.
What does that mean?
And so it's curious to me to maybe just to check in with that. So when values or coming from your ego. They're coming from a place that is benefiting from you being separate in some way. And often the ego wants to define whether that separateness is better or worse. There's a value judgment there. And so a value that comes from ego, let's just say about money, for example, maybe if something that you really value is money, that can either come from the ego in terms of maybe you're wanting to, make a lot of money in your profession because you were bullied in high school. And so you want to show them.
Yes.
Versus wanting financial abundance from a place of self-worth and really connecting with it. Like, this is my birthright to come here and have to be abundant and to have all of my needs met and to get to live in this different way.
Yes.
Those are both technically the same values, but they're coming from completely different sources.
Yes.
And typically those sort of ego values or ego manifestations are not going to be met, or if they are, they're not going to bring you the fulfillment that you think that they will. So maybe this is a time to check in around the things that you think you value. Are those actually bringing meaning into your life, or are they creating some sort of separation between you and others? And kind of what, in real time, what are those values bringing you?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of openings for insight there about what's the unconscious motivation of my goals and how do those relate to my self-worth.
Yeah, where's it coming from?
So that is an overarching frequency that we're experiencing September into November. And then, of course, we talked about it the last couple weeks, but we'll mention again, there's Chiron, the wound in the ancient wisdom, which is unlocked through healing that wound, transiting through Aries, where we're becoming more aware of our insecurities. That's aligning with Jupiter in Gemini. So, what are you afraid to learn? What are the questions that you're afraid to ask? Are you afraid that you don't know something? Both of these transits are multi-generational transits. So they feel very karmic in the sense that we're being given an opportunity here to cleanse the bloodline and rewrite our ancestral story.
I think an important question here, maybe in the spirit of asking questions, might just be why.
Yeah.
I think of that as the most sort of quintessential Gemini question. And also it's something that I think children are really oriented to. Why? And then you answer the question and then they say, why again? Why?
Yeah, why?
And it's this like beautiful rabbit hole. But interestingly, it's a question that we as therapists are trained not to ask. And I sometimes ask why, ask myself why. And I think it's because why typically brings you into a mental space, which we know is very Gemini. And often it can keep us in sort of a mental loop that may or may not be useful, but sort of as a default, we're sort of taught not to do that in therapy, which is just curious in this context, because I do think it can be a really powerful question.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you want that?
Exactly. I think that's a big word, like you said, for Gemini. And then you connect it to the Aries frequency with Chiron, and it's, are you afraid to ask why? Sometimes asking why can be a scary question to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you might not like the answer.
You might not like the answer.
Yeah.
Why did you do this? Well, you really want to know? Okay, well, I'll tell you, you know. So do you have the courage to ask why? Or what is it that you're afraid to ask why about? So those are the sort of overarching tones that are being set, that we're experiencing, and that is the background of what we're experiencing as we head into this new moon solar eclipse in Libra. I think it's important to mention that because the new moon is not happening in a vacuum. And these other tones of asking why, or delving into the unconscious and reflecting upon your values and goals, and whether or not the ego is involved, or if it's something that does not have the ego. That is all in play right now. So the first transit of the week is a transit that we touched on at the end of the last episode, because this transit began to take shape around Friday. And it continues on until this Wednesday, even Thursday. But the exact occurs on Monday, September 30th. And this exact alignment is the conjunction between Mercury, the messenger of the gods, guide of souls to the underworld, the planet of consciousness, communication, coordination, forming a conjunction with the sun, the planet of light, life, and vitality. They form this conjunction in the cardinal air sign symbolized by the scales, Libra. So Mercury's conjunct the sun from last Friday to this Thursday. And it's bringing a greater amount of conscious awareness to our relationships, to how we communicate in our relationships. Are we asking those questions? Why? Why did you do this? Or it doesn't have to be a why. It could be, what is your reasoning behind that?
Where does this come from?
Where does this come from? What is your motivation? How do you feel about this? There's a lot of different questions you can ask. And when Mercury is involved, this is the planet of communication. And in order to be a great communicator, you need to be a great listener.
It's true.
Because how much do you like when you're speaking and somebody else is just staring at the wall or staring at their phone or not paying attention in any other way? It's very frustrating, agitating.
Well, communication has really two directions. It's like a 2-lane road where you have one car going one direction and the other coming the other way. It's like there's information that's incoming and then is being processed and then comes back out based on the outgoing.
The outbox, the inbox, the outbox.
Yes.
The thing is I feel like most people, myself included, not so much anymore, but I'd say for the majority of my life, when I would think of communication, I would think of me talking. That's what communication means, right? Like, I'm communicating to you, I'm talking to you. But to communicate, like you said, is a two-way street. In order to be a great communicator, you have to be a great listener. That's what I didn't become aware of that until I started taking acting classes. And that was something that they would talk about in all the acting classes that I would take, is you have to be a great listener. 90% of acting is listening.
That makes so much sense.
If you're just waiting to say your line, you're not present with the other person.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really hear what they're saying, take it to heart, and then reflect.
Well, I almost think of it as like of the feminine and the masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Because the feminine, that yin experience, is about being able to receive, which is ultimately what listening is.
Yes.
And then the masculine, that yang, is about expression.
Mm-hmm.
And so communication can be challenging because it does require us to be in healthy relationship with our masculine and our feminine.
Yes.
And so it will, if communication is difficult for you, it might be highlighting in one of those areas where maybe you need some extra support and attention.
Right. And for someone, it might be they're having trouble finding their voice. They might be a great listener,
Right.
but they're having trouble communicating or sharing what their perspective is.
Right. The expression,
Yes,
the yang,
yes.
the masculine
Mm-hmm.
might need some support.
Yes. And so this transit of Mercury conjunct the Sun in Libra is really about finding that balance between the yin and the yang in the way that you communicate in your relationships. Where do your relationships feel out of balance? Can you be a better listener? Do you need to share more openly what it is your perspective is? Which of those areas is lacking for you, or those that you're in relationship with? What can you do to find the balance here?
And an important part too with communication, I just want to say, is also about really being present. If you're so focused on what your response is going to be, then you're actually in the future. You're not in the present.
Yes.
And it can be really difficult to receive and to listen if you're not present. I think that's the number one issue from my perspective. Why listening can be difficult. Because you're not really there. Your attention and focus and energy is elsewhere.
Right. And so if it is elsewhere, where is it? And that's where like these earlier transits that we're talking about, like the overarching transits with Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, specifically Neptune in Pisces, what's going on in your unconscious? When someone else is talking to you and your mind is drifting elsewhere, where's it going? Why is it going there? What are you thinking about? Yeah.
Because that's meaningful. It's meaningful. Are you going to the past? You're either going to the past or you're going to the future.
Yes.
And if you're someone who has a lot of anxiety, you're probably going to the future. If you are on the opposite spectrum and struggle with depression, you're probably going to the past. And so being willing to look at your communication style and your experience during communication can give you a lot of information about just where you are emotionally and in general with your mental health.
Yes. Can you expand upon that a little bit?
About depression versus anxiety?
In general with your mental health. What do you mean by that?
Well, I guess I'm thinking about it in terms of depression versus anxiety. You know, I often think of them as sort of opposite expressions because one is pulling you typically towards the past and one is pulling you towards the future. I think those are both mental health challenges, or mental health orientations is a better word, to just notice, where are you pulled and how is that affecting your life? Is that working for you?
I think that's such an important note this week with this eclipse, because the eclipse energy is very dense, very heavy. I mean, I've been feeling very heavy since the full moon lunar eclipse on September 17th.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it I think is like we had some of the dowsing work done here by...
We did. We haven't really talked about that.
IndigoMoon.com.
Oh, we did talk about her a little bit last week.
IndigoMoon.com. That's Jen. She's our dowser and feng shui person. And, we had the cures put into the house. And it felt like energy work had been done to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's being done to the house, but it's like energy work being done in the house. And it's like, I need to take a nap now for 4 hours and drink a gallon of water. Like Maggie was dehydrated. You were dehydrated.
I got very nauseous.
You were nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something shifting there, but I think it also has to do with this eclipse energy.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the midst of this eclipse, and it feels like, to me, like you're on a ship in the middle of the ocean and the waves are getting very high and they're crashing down over the boat and you're going down and up and you're feeling nauseous.
Mm-hmm. And
what do you do when you're on a ship like that? Like you're kind of like holding on for dear life. But what we really want to do is release and let go. Like if you're holding too tightly during a storm, what happens? You get seasick and you throw up. A release happens. So either you release your body and stop trying to control things and just go with the waves and ride the waves and you don't feel sick, or you try to hold on to that need to be stable, which is impossible when you're in the ocean, and you vomit. Either way, there's a release happening. And that is sort of what this new moon solar eclipse in Libra feels like to me, coming on the heels of the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which Pisces is the sign that rules the oceans. And Libra is the sign that is symbolized by the scales. So it represents balance. So you have these waves that are going high and then low, and it's like, whoa. And how do you find your balance in that frequency? That's what this new moon is about. And it's occurring on Wednesday, October 2nd at 11:50 a.m. Pacific time, 2:50 p.m. Eastern time. So, typically around the new moon, after the new moon, we're setting intentions, but this solar eclipse carries with it such intensity that it's almost like you don't want to set any specific intentions. It's like trying to throw something, trying to dive off the boat in the ocean. Like when it's moving like that, it's not going to end well. You're going to get thrown in the spin cycle. So it's more about leaning in to whatever's occurring in your life right now, not resisting. Leaning into whatever's occurring, letting it happen, trusting the process of whatever is occurring to you right now is what you're meant to experience. And it may be unpleasant, but it's going to move energy that is stagnant, that needs to be moved.
I think there's actually some data that when you fall and you're injured, that part of what creates the injury is sort of the resisting, like the holding and bracing for impact, versus if you fall and you're able to just sort of land, that you don't get as hurt.
Yeah, so you're not tensing up when you fall.
Right.
You're just going with it.
Right. What creates a more severe injury is when there's tension.
Yes.
And you're bracing yourself, essentially.
Yes. Wow. Huh. That just makes me think of the sort of esoteric implications of my aunt. Because I mentioned my aunt a few weeks ago. I had visited her, and we had a really wonderful visit for about 4 hours. This was earlier in the month on September 1st. Wonderful visit. She's so just sharp and coherent, and she fell on September 12th in the middle of the night, going to the bathroom, and then she passed away on September 25th. So I wonder if it was like she fell, but it's like she needed to move through the energy of the physical to get to the other side.
It's the fall is so symbolic.
Yeah, it happens like to so many people that are that age.
Right, and she was 101.
101 years
right?
old. They fall, and then like, oh, they fell. Okay, they're probably not going to be here much longer.
Right, and I think at that age, you can't really brace yourself for impact.
No, that's the thing.
When you fall, it is so symbolic, perhaps, because there really is no control anymore.
Yes. So you have to just let go, and
you have to just let go.
She had to let go. There's other plans for her soul, and she's moving towards them now. I'm getting the chills. So I'm thinking of you, Aunt Maxine. I love you. I will miss our deep talks, our deep conversations, but I am so grateful for the years of conversations that we had together. So much wisdom downloaded to me from this woman.
After 101 years, can you imagine?
Yeah.
That is some wisdom.
And so, yeah, I think of this new moon, and it's really observing what is going on in your relationships right now. What is going on in your unconscious? How is your unconscious affecting or impacting your relationships? What are your experiences from your past? Thinking of Mars transiting through Cancer, the god of war transiting through the sign that represents the past, encouraging us to face the past, to make peace with the past.
That's coming up for me a lot.
That was one of the key notes that my aunt gave me the last time we spoke, where she was like, people ask me all the time, how did I get to this point? 101 years old. I don't know. But then she said, well, I think part of it is you got to make peace with the past. That whatever happened is what was meant to happen. I did the best that I could, and I don't really have any control over it. There's a higher power that's controlling things, and you just have to make peace with the past. And I feel that is a main theme right now with Mars in Cancer is, do you have the courage to make peace with your past? So whatever's coming up in your relationships during this new moon solar eclipse, be aware of it consciously, because guess what? This new moon solar eclipse is happening conjunct Mercury. They're all three of these planets are in alignment with each other. So we're taking a very conscious look at our relationships and where they're out of balance, where they need to be renegotiated, how they can be more fair, so that we can have peace in our relationships. But we can't have peace in our relationships if we don't make peace with the past, if we don't make peace in our unconscious.
Well, and with Libra, we know that this is about relationships with others, which affects our relationship with ourselves. But this isn't about the relationship with ourselves. This is about learning and connecting through relationship with others.
Yes.
And that involves learning how to see things from the other perspective.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean you don't come back to your own perspective, but you practice, that expression, walking a mile in someone else's shoes, and really trying that on, as uncomfortable or comfortable as that might be.
And that might be the work during this solar eclipse, is seeing things from the other perspective.
I'm curious about how this might be coming up for me, because I'm a Libra. And so I think generally this is something this is a strength of mine. But as you know, I woke up this morning and I'm having trouble turning my neck and have this kind of gripping pain in my right shoulder. And so often I think themes and information come through in our body to let us know maybe where we need to focus, what we need to work on. And the neck, the ability literally to look in different directions right now for me has been immobilized.
Wow.
So what is it that I need to see that perhaps I'm not able to see in my relationships?
Or maybe it means that you need to be focused on yourself.
On my part in the relationship.
Sure. Yes. But I just want to say, speaking of you being a Libra, Gabriella's birthday is Monday, September 30th.
It is.
So, happy birthday this week, Gabriella.
Thank you.
Very grateful for your arrival on planet Earth, and especially for your presence in my life.
Thank you.
Yes. Very grateful for you.
Thank you.
And all that you do. You're a gift to
Thank
me.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. I had a lot of resistance to incarnate and be born. It's actually something I'm really aware of within myself. I'm like, yeah, I knew this would be hard, and it is hard. Yeah. So my birthday is kind of bittersweet for me in that way. Yeah. I'm not one of those people who's really,
hey everyone,
hey, it's my birthday month, or that's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So it brings up a lot. It's a completion of a cycle, and in some ways bringing me back to that wound in some way around, being a human.
Yes. Well, and that's why I just want to acknowledge that here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's very sweet.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, along with this, this solar eclipse, just to intensify things a little more, but I think of it as a good intensity, because it, I don't like to think of things as good or bad, but let's say supportive intensity, because this is a trine. It's a supportive aspect occurring between Venus, the planetary ruler of Libra, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships, transiting through Scorpio, the fixed water sign, symbolized by the scorpion, the deepest, darkest, most passionate sign. Venus is transiting through Scorpio, transforming our relationships, transforming our intimate bonds, transforming our senses, our values, our likes and dislikes. Venus aligns in a trine, which is a supportive aspect, with Saturn, the god of wealth and time, the planet of restriction, responsibility, hard work, achievement, and authority, transiting through the mutable water sign symbolized by the fish, Pisces. So Saturn in Pisces is urging us to take responsibility for our unconscious thoughts, that we need to become aware of them. We can't hide from them. We can't run from them. The connection to Venus is saying, look at your intimate bonds. And in what ways do your intimate bonds, the people that you're intimate with, the people that you share your secrets with, your body with, your money with, how are those individuals reflected in your unconscious, in your dream world? Or how are they connected to that? If you feel like there's a heaviness in your psyche, guilt, shame, regret, blame, how is that integrated within your intimate bonds? Are you feeling lifted by these intimate bonds, or are you feeling drained? If you're feeling drained, then something needs to transform. And that transformation can begin through the restructuring of your psyche, in the way that you communicate to yourself. Are you speaking to yourself with compassion? Are you speaking to your lover in your psyche with empathy and compassion? Do you have empathy for the other? This is what we can be pondering during this solar eclipse. The alignment between Venus and Saturn is from Wednesday to Saturday, October 2nd to the 5th, with the exact trine occurring on Friday, October 4th. So the hope is that the tension that we're feeling as it leads up to the solar eclipse, as it dissipates, hopefully by Friday we're getting the reward for whatever cleared and was rebalanced during that solar eclipse.
So is there any indication what might be being cleared here? You mentioned at the beginning of the episode maybe some ancestral patterns.
Yes, I think ancestral patterns are a major key here because of Mars transiting through Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
When Mars transits through Cancer, it churns up the past. There's a motivation to be connected to family.
Mm-hmm.
There's a motivation to uncover the past, your ancestry. Like, you think about these bodies, right? The blood, the DNA. You know, we carry what's passed down to us from our parents, which was passed down to them through their parents and their parents and their parents before them. And now that we're here in the physical form, we need to be reflecting on, what do I want to carry forward? What do I want to transmute or transform? And what do I want to leave behind or let go? Like, just think about it in terms of, my aunt just died. She has property, material property, that's going to go to her immediate family. Are they going to keep it all? Or are they going to sell some of it, get rid of it, transmute or transform it, keep it the way that it was? It's easy to see it from that perspective because it's the material.
Right.
But what I'm talking about is energetic. It's a frequency. It's a feeling.
It's an imprint.
It's an imprint. This is about becoming aware of what that imprint is that was made upon you through your ancestors and your parents. And what is it that you would like to keep and remain the same? What would you like to transform or transmute? What would you like to get rid of or release?
And in terms of that material, it's interesting to consider Mars in Cancer. It is ancestry, but it's more specifically the mother.
Mm-hmm.
It's the maternal line.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that a woman has all the eggs that she will have when she's born. So those are developing when she's a fetus. And so not only were you in your mother's womb, but you were actually in your grandmother's womb when the imprint of you existed in your mother.
Yes.
On the material level. So we know in order for there to be life, there's spirit and matter that has to come together.
Yep.
And so the matter, the mother, the feminine, is an imprint from your mother and your grandmother. And so in some ways there is a literal carrying of the material through the generations.
Yes. Yes.
Which is why, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but I have so much in common with my grandmother on my mother's side.
I know you do.
I mean, her birthday is a couple days after mine. She's going to be 99 this year.
Yes. Absolutely. I see this all the time in families. Like my aunt, who just passed away, her daughter was born on her birthday.
So interesting.
Exactly. So you see it all the time. We talk about it in terms of your primal triad. You see the astrology reflected through the primal triad from parents to children, grandparents. I see like family traits in these astrological imprints. So there's a lot of ways to look at how we carry that familial torch.
Right. And like you're saying, we don't have to choose to continue to carry all of it.
Exactly.
We can actually adjust our karmic agreements at any time.
Yes.
And so we might say, yes, I've carried this forward because there was something I needed to learn about it. Maybe a wound, a story, some sort of experience. And now I'm ready to let that go. Because now I'm coming into myself and I'm choosing what I want to carry forward.
Exactly. And the eclipse is a powerful time to just allow that space to be cleared. Whatever needs to be cleared, let it be cleared.
Yeah. Do I like this story that I'm living in, or do I want to write a new one?
Exactly.
A new chapter.
Yes. Yes. The final transit for the week is Mercury. As it continues on through Libra, it forms a square with Mars, the god of war, the planet of action, aggression, conflict, courage, transiting through the cardinal water sign symbolized by the crab, Cancer. This square is occurring from Friday to Sunday, with the exact square happening Saturday, October 5th, the day of my live Zoom with Delisa. So, yes, it's this is what we're sort of building towards, this crux. When we're looking at our relationships and how they relate to our past, like so often you see these patterns that get passed down from generation to generation to generation. My parents had marital problems. I have marital problems. You know, it's like those sort of, I'm just using that as an example. So what are those areas of your relationships that you need to take a very difficult, conscious look at in order to make peace with your past? Or maybe it's the other way. Maybe what is it about your past you need to become consciously aware of so that you can make peace with your past in order to create balance and harmony in your present life, your present relationships?
We did a family tree, or also known as a genogram, in my program at Pacifica, and it's really interesting because not only do you pass down or live through cycles within your family tree that might be difficult in some way, there might also be strengths. Like just like you can sort of pass down maybe like substance use issues, things like that, you can also pass down traits that are favorable.
Yes. And that's it.
So that's worth saying too, that
exactly. It
goes both ways.
You want to draw upon your familial power. That's what Mars, that's what Mars in Cancer is also doing. It's not just about clearing out all the trauma, but it's also drawing from that strength.
Right.
Your ancestral strength. You know, I think of my aunt passing. It's like, well, now I have an angel that I can talk to. Another angel. I've got so many familial, the elder people of my family that have all transitioned on. I talk to them all the time. I call out to them. Yeah.
You're always asking, like, Dad, can you help me find my keys?
And he always does. Always.
You don't ask me for help finding the keys. You ask your dad.
Because you'll get angry at me if I... They're right here. No, I always ask my dad. Yeah, I don't know. And I find it right afterwards. So
you do.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, the week ends kind of in a mixed bag. But I think it's kind of pushing through that last bit of tension that needs to be cleared. The end of this week, and that'll bring us to the end.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll ask you for help next time, baby.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're around, I'll ask you. And if you're not around, I'll ask my dad.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for offering.
Yeah, you're welcome. Happy to have Tom Tajarian's presence in our home always.
Yeah. Yes. All right.
So we'll be thinking of all of you out there this week.
Yes, during that solar eclipse. And especially, I just want to say, everyone who was born in the mid-70s, like me, this new moon solar eclipse is going to be conjunct your Pluto. So just brace yourself for big transformations. Big transformations to relationships. Be open to them. Do not resist. Remember, if you resist, then you're vomiting on the deck on the ship. So just let it flow. Be with whatever's happening. And we'll catch you next week on the next episode.
Yep. We'll see you then.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Weekly Transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any other transits may be affecting you, or if you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. If you're interested in delving into the world of psychotherapy with Gabriella, you can schedule a consultation with her at GabriellaDurso.com. That's GabriellaDurso.com. Support for the podcast can be done through a monthly contribution on Spotify, rating us 5 stars, subscribing to our channel on YouTube, or writing a favorable review on Apple Podcasts. We are grateful for your support. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog-Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.